The 2026 Winter Olympics brought the world a heavyweight gold medal matchup that will forever go down in the history books. Team USA versus a Canadian hockey roster many believed was the greatest team ever assembled. Inside a deafening arena, it was 60 minutes of pure suffocating tension, where a single mistake meant national heartbreak. But at the center of it all, securing the Americans their first Olympic gold medal since the 1980 Miracle on Ice, was a 32-year-old goaltender named Connor Hellebuyck. His 2-1 overtime victory was the pinnacle of hockey greatness, a career-defining masterclass where he single-handedly willed his country to gold. But what if I told you that we were inches away from never knowing his name? Connor Hellebuyck spent his high school years at Walled Lake Northern in Commerce, Michigan, a school sitting just 30 minutes away from USA Hockey's headquarters, and he was completely invisible to them. Walled Lake Northern wasn't exactly known for churning out NHL prospects. Unlike the heavily scouted kids touring the country on elite travel squads, Hellebuyck was just a kid playing varsity for his school with a dream of playing in the NHL. He had the size and the drive, but to the gatekeepers of the sport, he simply didn't exist. After graduating, Hellebuyck went undrafted by every junior league out of high school, and not a single NCAA school reached out. No one wanted him. The dream, for all intents and purposes, was dead, leaving Hellebuyck absolutely heartbroken. Refusing to accept this fate, an 18-year-old Hellebuyck packed his bags and drove 12 hours across the Midwest for a camp for a low-level minor league hockey team, the Odessa Jackalopes. Odessa is a Texas city built on oil rigs and the legacy of Friday Night Lights. It's football country, where hockey is barely an afterthought. Yet, they were the only ones willing to even give him a glance. Hellebuyck's resilience and drive to play hockey were his anchor. He told himself that he was going to make it, no matter what it took. Joe Clark, his goalie coach and longtime mentor, vividly remembers that camp, stating, "We had like 8 goalies at tryouts. No one knew anything about him. Connor stood out. He made the team and he was a no-brainer for us as a staff, but he really had no resume whatsoever before that." Against all odds, he dominated, leading the league in total saves and winning both Rookie of the Year and Goaltender of the Year in just his first season. His play drew the eyes of NHL scouts across North America, beginning his journey from an unknown walk-on to a goalie generating attention. After just one season with the Jackalopes, the University of Massachusetts Lowell recruited Hellebuyck, offering him a full-ride scholarship. But the summer before joining UMass Lowell, his career and his life were nearly cut short. During a casual roller hockey game, a terrifying accident caused catastrophic internal bleeding. His spleen had to be removed and he narrowly escaped with his life. And yet, it was right then, while he was literally recovering from a near-death experience, that the NHL came calling. Heading into the 2012 NHL entry draft, despite the attention he was beginning to draw, NHL Central Scouting didn't even have him listed among the top 35 goaltending prospects in North America. But the Winnipeg Jets had seen his single spectacular season in Texas, and they took a chance on him, selecting him in the 5th round, 130th overall. He was officially an NHL draft pick before he ever played a single second of college hockey. Hellebuyck finally joined the Riverhawks, but the transition back to the ice was brutal. His first college start was terrible, with him being pulled after giving up 5 goals before the end of the 3rd period, ultimately leading to him being benched for over a month. Funny enough, the reason for his poor play was due to the bizarre fact that Hellebuyck was over-prepared, thinking that the game was going to be much faster and better than it was. Hellebuyck remembered this game, stating, "The game is not as fast as I just made it out to be. It was all the pressure I was putting on myself and expecting the game to be so much better than what it was. I was more ready, more prepared than I had given myself credit for." Hellebuyck used the time on the bench to completely recalibrate his game. When he finally reclaimed the crease, he was a different entity entirely. By season's end, he backstopped Lowell to its first ever Frozen Four appearance. The Riverhawks went on to win their first of back-to-back Hockey East titles, and Hellebuyck was named tournament MVP for both years. Over his 2 collegiate seasons, he had a 38-12-2 record and 12 shutouts. And to top it off, he won the Mike Richter Award as the most outstanding goaltender in college hockey. To this day, he holds the NCAA men's hockey record for best career save percentage, ending with a .946 mark over 2 seasons at UMass Lowell. With numbers like that, there was nothing left for him to prove at the college level. On April 5, 2014, he signed a 3-year entry-level contract with the Winnipeg Jets, foregoing his final 2 years of college eligibility. He started his professional career during the 2014-15 season with the Jets' AHL affiliate, the St. John's Ice Caps. He put his head down, refined his mechanics, and by late 2015, he made his NHL debut against the Minnesota Wild, allowing just a single goal to secure a 3-win victory. From that moment on, the ascension was rapid. He broke in as a starter during the 2016-17 season, and by the following year, had completely taken control of the net. In that single breakout season, Hellebuyck set franchise records for both wins and shutouts, but more impressively, he made NHL history, recording the most wins by an American goaltender in a season. Over the next several seasons, he cemented his legacy as one of the best in the world, capturing 2 Vezina trophies as the league's top goaltender.
The Vezina trophy goes to...
Yes.
Connor Hellebuyck.
But as the calendar turned to 2025, Hellebuyck had evolved into a generational titan. On January 7th, 2025, he became the 3rd fastest goaltender to reach 300 wins, following Andrei Vasilevsky and Jacques Plante. But the year also brought bitter international heartbreak. At the Four Nations Face-Off, which was the first best-on-best international tournament to feature NHL players in almost a decade, Hellebuyck was the starting goaltender for the Americans, who ultimately lost the final to Canada 3-2 in overtime. Even in defeat, he statistically outperformed every other goaltender in the tournament. He would then go on to finish the regular season with a league-leading 47 wins, shutting the door night after night to help the Winnipeg Jets earn their first ever President's Trophy. On June 12, 2025, he captured his 3rd Vezina trophy, but more importantly, he took home his first Hart Trophy as the NHL's MVP. He became the first goaltender to win the award in a decade, and the first American goalie in the history of the sport to ever receive it. Despite the awards and accolades, the hockey world still questioned his ability to step up when it mattered most. But they were doubting a man whose entire career was built on a 12-hour drive and a refusal to take no for an answer. It was on the biggest international stage that Hellebuyck looked to settle a debt and finally quiet the criticism. On January 2nd, 2026, the kid who was once entirely invisible to USA Hockey was officially named to Team USA's roster for the 2026 Winter Olympics. But earning a spot on the team and carrying the weight of a nation are 2 very different things.
Welcome to the U.S. Olympic hockey team. We got unfinished business, so be ready, big fella.
You have no idea how ready I am.
The pressure in Milan was immense, as the United States hadn't tasted Olympic gold since the Miracle on Ice nearly a half-century prior. And looming over the entire tournament was the inescapable reality that this bracket was on a collision course with Canada. As the preliminary rounds began, Hellebuyck stepped onto the ice and immediately proved the stage wasn't too big for him. He methodically shut down international powerhouses, game by game, guiding the Americans through the early stages of the tournament with his typical calm composure. But everyone knew that the opening rounds were just the prologue. The true test, the ultimate boss fight of his entire career, was waiting in the gold medal round. Canada had assembled an offensive juggernaut, a roster many believed is the greatest team ever put on the ice. And right from the opening faceoff, they threw everything they had at the American net. In the second period, the pressure reached a boiling point. Hellebuyck found himself dead to rights on a point-blank breakaway against the best player on the planet, Connor McDavid. With the game on a stick, McDavid made his move, but Hellebuyck said no. Shortly after denying McDavid, the United States found themselves staring down the barrel of a 5-on-3 penalty kill. For 1 minute and 33 seconds, the Americans were 2 men down against the most lethal power play unit the hockey world has likely ever seen. For those suffocating moments, Hellebuyck was an absolute brick wall, keeping the game within reach. But Canada kept pushing. In the opening minutes of the third period, Devon Toews had the game on his stick with an open net in front of him. In what has to be one of the biggest saves in hockey history, Connor Hellebuyck reached back with an absolutely insane paddle save to somehow keep the puck out of the net. Just minutes later, he was tested again off the rush, completely stonewalling a breakaway from hockey's newest phenom, Macklin Celebrini, maintaining the tie. Over and over again, the Canadian super team thought they had the game buried, and over again, Hellebuyck shut the door, putting up a superhuman 40-save performance to drag the game into sudden death overtime. And then, the ultimate poetic finish. After single-handedly keeping the Americans alive, Hellebuyck began the play that led to the golden goal, assisting on Jack Hughes' game-winning overtime goal. When the dust settled on that 2-1 overtime victory, the historical parallels were drawn instantly. Not since Jim Craig in 1980 had an American goaltender so thoroughly captivated the nation. The performance was so monumental that US President Donald Trump awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor in the United States, and he earned the nickname the Secretary of Defense. It is staggering to think how close his story came to simply not existing. Without a desperate 12-hour solo drive to Minnesota, the hockey world would have been deprived of one of its greatest champions. He wasn't supposed to be drafted, he wasn't supposed to make the NHL, and he definitely wasn't supposed to single-handedly win Team USA an Olympic gold medal. But he did. because his story is a reminder that sometimes the greatest player on the ice isn't the one everyone wanted, it's the one who refused to go away.